the rolling hills of Oakwood County, Kentucky, the Wright family farm had been passed down through 3 generations. But on a cold February night, a decades-old financial dispute would tear this family apart forever. Marcus Wright, 58, and his wife Patricia, 55, were found dead in their farmhouse. The murders shocked this tight-knit rural community. Tonight, we uncover the shocking truth about how family fortune became a deadly weapon. This is a story of greed, betrayal, and blood money that destroyed an American farming family. Marcus and Patricia Wright were respected pillars of their rural community. Marcus worked the family farm that his grandfather had established in 1952. Patricia taught elementary school for 30 years before retiring to help with farm operations. They raised 4 children together, including Victor, 32, and Brenda, 28. But beneath this picture-perfect family lay deep financial tensions that had been simmering for years. A prenuptial settlement agreement worth $45,000 had become the center of a bitter family dispute. The money was supposed to secure the farm's future, but instead it became a source of resentment and anger. Family dinners turned into shouting matches about inheritance and financial responsibility. The American dream of passing down generational wealth had somehow transformed into a nightmare that would ultimately cost 2 innocent lives.
Everyone wants to paint me as the villain in this story, but they don't understand the pressure we were all under. Dad controlled every single dollar that came in and out of that farm. He made promises about the settlement money that he never intended to keep. Mom knew it too, but she was too scared to stand up to him. They treated us like children, even though we were adults with families of our own. I loved my parents, I really did, but I wasn't going to let them destroy our family's future over money that was rightfully ours according to the legal agreement. When someone betrays your trust for years and years, something has to give eventually. The tension was eating our family alive. I tried talking to them reasonably, but Dad would just get angry and Mom would start crying. It was impossible to have a rational conversation about our financial future.
I keep replaying that night over and over in my mind. If I had stayed at the farmhouse just 5 more minutes, maybe I could have prevented this tragedy. Victor had been acting strange for weeks, talking about money constantly, saying things like, "Dad's going to pay for what he's done to this family." I thought it was just another family argument about finances. We'd had so many of them over the years that I had learned to tune them out. But when I found Mom and Dad lying there in pools of blood, I knew our family would never be the same again. I still wake up screaming in the middle of the night, wondering if I could have saved them. The guilt is overwhelming. I should have recognized the warning signs. I should have done something to protect them from their own son.
The Wright family had been fighting about money for as long as I can remember. Patricia confided in me many times about the prenuptial settlement dispute. Marcus was stubborn as a mule when it came to that $45,000. He felt like the younger generation didn't respect what he'd built, didn't understand the sacrifices he'd made to keep that farm running. Victor and Marcus would get into screaming matches that could be heard 3 farms over. Patricia would call me crying, saying she was afraid the family was falling apart. She loved her children, but she also felt torn between loyalty to her husband and protecting her kids' inheritance. I warned her many times that all this anger was dangerous, that someone was going to get hurt. But none of us imagined it would lead to cold-blooded murder.
I was at the Wright farmhouse that afternoon, helping Marcus repair a fence. The tension between him and Victor was thicker than molasses. Victor kept demanding answers about the settlement money, saying he had a right to know what Dad was planning to do with their inheritance. Marcus just kept saying, "When I'm ready to discuss it, you'll know." But Victor wasn't accepting that answer anymore. He started talking about how the farm should belong to the next generation, how the old ways of doing business were holding everyone back. The anger in his voice was unlike anything I'd ever heard before. He was talking about respect and fairness, but there was something darker underneath. I should have known something terrible was coming. The way Victor was looking at his father that day, it was like he was staring at an enemy instead of family.
That evening, around 8 o'clock, I stopped by to drop off some tools Marcus had borrowed from me. I brought my 8-year-old grandson with me because he loved visiting the farm animals. But the atmosphere in that house was electric with tension. Patricia looked frightened and kept glancing toward the stairs like she was expecting trouble. Marcus was pacing around the kitchen, muttering about ungrateful children who don't understand hard work. Victor was nowhere to be seen, but I could hear someone moving around upstairs. My grandson asked me why everyone seemed angry and upset. That's when I decided we needed to leave, immediately. Something felt very wrong about the whole situation. We walked out around 8:30 p.m. If I had known what was about to happen in that house, I would have stayed and tried to calm everyone down.
At exactly 9:15 p.m. on February 14th, Patricia Wright made her final phone call to her sister Karen, saying, "I'm scared about what Victor might do tonight. He's been acting strange all day." 20 minutes later, neighbors heard what sounded like firecrackers coming from the Wright farmhouse. But these weren't celebrations of Valentine's Day. They were gunshots that would shatter a rural Kentucky community forever. By 9:45 p.m., both Marcus and Patricia Wright were dead, and their son Victor was nowhere to be found. The family farm that had provided security for 3 generations had become a crime scene. The American dream of generational wealth had turned into an American nightmare of greed and murder. In the span of 30 minutes, $45,000 had cost 2 innocent people their lives. Oakwood County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the Wright farm at 10:12 p.m. after receiving a frantic 911 call from Brenda Wright. What they discovered inside the farmhouse would haunt experienced officers for years to come. Marcus Wright was found in the kitchen, shot twice in the chest at close range. Patricia Wright was discovered in the living room, killed by a single gunshot to the head. There were no signs of forced entry, no evidence of robbery or burglary. This was clearly a family affair gone tragically wrong. The murder weapon, a 12-gauge shotgun, belonged to Marcus himself and was found abandoned in the basement. Blood evidence suggested the killer had moved methodically through the house, executing both victims with cold precision. The crime scene told the story of a calculated double murder, not a crime of passion.
Everyone immediately pointed fingers at Victor Wright. But that's not fair to him or his family. Yes, he was angry about the money situation. But Victor isn't a cold-blooded killer. He's hot-headed and stubborn, just like his father was, but he wouldn't murder his own parents in cold blood. There had to be someone else involved in this tragedy. Maybe someone from outside the family who knew about the settlement money and saw an opportunity? Victor might make an easy scapegoat for law enforcement, but the real killer could still be out there walking free. The sheriff's department rushed to judgment instead of conducting a thorough investigation of all possibilities. They wanted a quick resolution to a complicated case that was making headlines. Sometimes, the most obvious suspect isn't the guilty party. We need to look deeper into this case before destroying an innocent man's life.
Crime scene investigators made a disturbing discovery inside the Wright farmhouse that would change everything. Victor Wright's cell phone was found on the kitchen counter, but when investigators examined the device, they discovered that over 380 text messages had been deleted on February 14th, the same day his parents were murdered. Why would someone delete so many messages unless they contained incriminating evidence? The timing of these deletions would become crucial to understanding what really happened that deadly Valentine's Day night. Digital forensics experts worked around the clock trying to recover the deleted messages, but the deletion had been thorough and professional. However, the phone's metadata revealed something even more disturbing. The messages had been deleted in 3 separate batches between 8 p.m. and midnight, the exact time frame when Marcus and Patricia Wright were brutally murdered.
When the police told me about Victor's deleted messages, my heart just sank to the floor. I knew in that moment that my brother was hiding something terrible from all of us. Victor had always been secretive with his phone and computer, but deleting hundreds of messages on the same day our parents were killed? That's not a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination. I wanted to believe in Victor's innocence, I really did. But the evidence was mounting against him every single day. The brother I grew up with, the man who taught me to ride a bike and protected me from bullies at school, had somehow become a stranger capable of unspeakable violence. It's like I never really knew him at all. The Victor I thought I knew would never hurt our parents, but the evidence doesn't lie.
Digital forensics experts attempted to recover the deleted messages from Victor Wright's phone, but the deletion had been thorough and professional. However, they did discover something interesting in the phone's metadata and GPS tracking information. The messages had been deleted in 3 separate batches between 8 p.m. and midnight on February 14th, the exact time frame when Marcus and Patricia Wright were murdered in cold blood. This wasn't random deletion of old messages. This was deliberate evidence destruction. Someone was trying very hard to hide their communications from that deadly night. But technology would prove to be Victor Wright's downfall. Even deleted messages leave digital fingerprints that can be traced by expert investigators. The phone records would reveal a pattern of communication that painted a disturbing picture of premeditation and calculated murder. Justice was about to be served. The Wright family tragedy exposes how financial disputes can destroy even the strongest family bonds. But with deleted messages, suspicious timelines, and conflicting testimonies, many questions remained unanswered. Was Victor Wright a cold-blooded killer who murdered his parents for $45,000? Or is there another explanation for this rural Kentucky nightmare? In our next episode, we'll reveal the shocking digital evidence that finally exposed the real killer. The truth will surprise you.